Okay, we are live today. We're analyzing a deal in Montgomery. That's because I saw that I had a friend who has a Section 8 rental in Montgomery. So I figured, hey, maybe later I can ask about who they are using for their property manager. But meanwhile, we are going to look at this deal because I saw that there was a price drop. This home has been steadily dropping from 140 all the way down to 110, so almost a 30 grand difference. Let's take a quick look at this home. What I typically like to do is one, just go through the street view and try and figure out whether or not the street looks okay. It just looks pretty suburban for the most part. I'm not seeing any big issues. One second. Let's see. Let's keep going down this area, see if there's anything else. Now, what I like to do is this area looks pretty good. So I'm going to go to tophap.com. What I want to do is plug in the address just to check out the crime score in this area. Now, just because I see that the street looks okay, that sometimes it might be misleading. So I use this website. It's called tophap.com. And I go to the neighborhood section. If I can just scroll it over so you guys can make sure you see it. Plug in the address, go to neighborhood, and then you'll see that the crime score is actually below average. So I know I'm in a solid neighborhood. It is below the national average. I live in a home area where the crime index is about 88. So that's usually how I use my benchmark on the sort of the neighborhood and for this area and see whether or not it kind of matches up to what I was seeing. Okay. All right. Next thing we want to do is get the fair market rents. And you can do that by going to Google, look up HUD FMR. And when you go down there, you can click on this area that says access to small area FMRs. And this is how we get the fair market rents. Fair market rents are usually the ceiling rents by which the federal government will say that they're willing to subsidize rent for up to a certain amount. Now, you can see right here, as soon as you go into small area FMRs, you can get the zip code 36106. So you go to 36106. You can kind of see here that the 3-bedroom rent is $1,460, and then the 4-bedroom here is $1,850. So $1,460 and $1,850. So I'm gonna write these numbers down so I don't lose them. And then $1,850. And I'm keeping these numbers so that I can figure out what my rents will be later. So let me just make sure I plug in on my zip code 36106. 36106. All right. Turn that into a 4-bedroom. And the reason I kind of get all this data together is so that my my partners can kind of see what the research I've done already. The next thing I do is I go to affordablehousing.com and I'm trying to get the market rents for this property. Now, by getting the market rents, I go to affordablehousing.com and I click on the market rent estimator. Then you can kind of simply come in here and just got to plug in the address here. So let me copy and paste this right in there. And this is a 4-bedroom home. So I'm going to put in 4. And I'm getting the 4-bedroom rents here because I'm comparing this to the FMR, to the fair market rent. The reason I'm doing this is because, one, I want to see what the market rents are, and two, the Affordable Housing or Public Housing Authority, typically called the PHA, usually has a test, what they call is the rent reasonableness test. Now, the rent reasonableness test means that just because the FMR, the fair market rents determined by HUD, is $1,850, does not mean they will give you $1,850 for rent. They will say, hey, Mr. Landlord or Miss Landlord, just because this person is a voucher holder does not mean you can charge above market rents. And in this scenario, they'll compare that, hey, there are 24 units, 4-bedroom properties within a 1.7 mile radius that rents out for $1,425 on average. So in order for you to achieve a rent higher than $1,425, there better be a justification for why you suspect you will get a higher rent than what we're seeing. Now, that you might have to call the local housing authority to figure out what allows you to get a rent above market rent. They might say, hey, we don't let you charge above market rent. However, and you got to figure out what the however is or what that but is, because that is what's going to determine whether or not you might cash flow on a property. Maybe they care about bathrooms, right? Maybe they care about amenities. Maybe it's handicap accessible. I don't know, but you're going to have to figure out why and what justifies a higher rent. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to grab the property tax number. I usually just use the property tax number right here from 84. So I'm going to plug this guy right in at 84. The homeowner insurance is 85. So I always take the 85 and I multiply it by 1.2 because I always add a 20% premium. Usually that insurance number is for a primary residence home. So I always add a 20% premium on there just to kind of help other people out. And because it's an investment property, usually it is a higher premium product. Okay. Now, let me delete some of the stuff over here. And I want to make sure that I am using a 25% down payment for this product. So I'm going to use down payment equals that times the 25% down payment right here. And then my sub-2 loan, not sub-2 loan, my mortgage is going to be assuming an 8.5% interest rate right here. And then this should equals to the down payment minus the down payment, the purchase price minus the down payment, and that equals the loan amount that we are financing. Okay. All right. Next thing we want to do is that we want to estimate the rehab. Let's go through the photos really quick so we kind of take a look at this. Some cracking in the cement, but usually you don't have to fix that on a affordable housing rental. Now, this carpet is definitely gringy, so I'm definitely anticipating that I will have to replace all the carpet and I will repaint the entire home at the minimum as I go through it. Looks like it's missing a stove. I'm not sure if you need to provide a stove here, but I'm going to provide a stove. I know that a refrigerator is not necessarily required here in the South, so we won't do that, but I would probably replace this vanity in the bathroom. I wanted it to look above average because that's a quality that I'm striving to achieve to attract the tier 1 tenants here. So I can kind of see that one. I can replace all the flooring and paint the whole house. Cool. All right. So we're going to go to our rehab calculator now. And obviously, if you guys want access to the calculator, just DM me your email. I'll add you to my email list, and then I'll send you out the spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that I was fortunate to have received from other people, and over time I just modified it based on my own renovations over time. So right here, and I'm going to add in $1,500, anticipating that there's going to be some roof repair that's needed. Sometimes you can't see if there's any roof damage or issues from just a photo, so I always like to put in $1,500 because every single time I've done a renovation, there was always some sort of issues with the roof that I either had to patch up or do something. I'm not painting the exterior. There are no windows that I need to replace, so I'm going to put that back to zero. I'm set aside $500 to keep the place clean while I am renovating the property because I don't want any code violations for having a messy house or whatever. So here's my painting line. So for my interior painting line, if I know I have to paint the entire home, I'm going to put in the entire square footage, which is 1761. I'm going to multiply that by 3 because I have paid about $300 to $350 per square foot to paint my homes in Scottsdale. This is probably a cheaper market, but I like to be conservative and just keep those same numbers. Then I have my luxury vinyl flooring, plank flooring. So I want to put in 1761 because I know that I should be replacing the floor in the entire home to make it nicer. So that kind of gets pretty expensive because I paid about $8 a square foot in Scottsdale. That might be the similar price as what you're going through, but completely up to you. I'm going to put in a new range hood here for the kitchen. I am going to repaint the kitchen cabinets to make it freshen up. That usually costs me, from quotes perspective, $3,500 because when they repaint the cabinets, they have to disassemble the cabinets, repaint them, so it can be pretty laborious in those situations. For a bathroom, I'm going to assume that I need to remodel an entire bathroom for at least one of them. I only saw like one photo, I think, for the bathrooms, right? I only saw one bathroom. So I have no idea what the other bathroom looks like because it's a 4.2. So I'm assuming it's in a pretty crappy state. And I'm going to assume I need to remodel the entire bathroom. And then I need to get a new vanity cabinet, a new vanity mirror, a new sink, and a new toilet for the other bathroom to kind of freshen up because I like to front load my renovation so that I have less issues to deal with over time. So I'm not adding any extra bedrooms. I'm assuming the water heater is fine. It looks like it used to be a rental, but who knows? If there's any issues during the inspection, then I'll probably request a credit for the water heater. I'm assuming there's no issues with termite or a need to fumigate the entire property. So this gets me to a total renovation of $36,000. And I'm going to put in an additional 20% premium for things like I can't see or just being over budget. That's always just me being a little conservative so that I'm not underfunding the deal. So this is what this property gets me to now. When I update the rents here, now the rents here are what I'm using is the market rents from the 4 bedroom on affordablehousing.com. That was 1425. I'm using 1425 because even though my FMR is 1850, I'm assuming I can't get that rent because it's such a far gap away from 1425. I might try to analyze the deal and Canada Banana Farms. What about the air conditioner? I'm assuming the AC is in good shape, but if not, I also have a line item there. So that's why I have a 20% buffer right here for anything that I don't see. So if I go and have an inspection, have someone walk the property, and I see that the AC doesn't work anymore, especially if you're in the middle of winter or going into the summer, I would definitely put in an AC unit, but I have some number here. So you can kind of see like I have an AC unit for the window unit for $2,000. So I know that with this 20% contingency, I know that I have $7,000 here as my budget, just in case anything happens. And I did not account for those sort of unexpected expenses. I'm accounting for them, but using just like a rough rule of thumb beyond things that I cannot see. So thanks for the question, by the way. That was a good question. For my monthly income rent, I'm going to put in 1425 for my rent. Property tax is 84, 102 is the insurance. I have 10% for my war chest, which means I'm setting aside 10% of my rent every single month in anticipation that something will get or will need to be replaced, such as the AC that Canada Banana Farms mentioned earlier, or a roof or a water heater, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I have 8% for property management, and I'm setting aside 3% for vacancy just because I expect people to move out, but it's also a pretty low vacancy number because I'm expecting people will like to live here longer, especially if it's a single family home, and I'm renovating it to be sort of above average in terms of quality. Okay. All right. So this is what we're at right now. So at 1425, we're saying that this property will cash flow $305. So let's kind of write all these numbers down. So I always go through the scenarios in my head and think about, okay, well, at 1425 rent, this is going to cash flow $305, and that's going to be a 4.9% cash and cash return. This was assuming $110,000 purchase price with a 25% down and 8.5% interest. Okay, cool. Now, what if I say, hey, what if I get lucky and all of a sudden I'm able to get close to the FMR, but I'm going to do 90% of 1850. So that would be my best case scenario, which results in a rent of 1665. That's not guaranteed, but I want to know what my upside is. Maybe not next year, but the following year, I know that I have at least some room to grow in terms of rent. If that happens, I am now cash flowing $495. That makes it an 8% cash and cash return, and assuming it's the same purchase price. So for me, this is personally not a deal for my own investment criteria because my preference is to have a 17% cash and cash return. So I got to play around the numbers and be like, hey, how much money do I have to pay for this house in order to get a 17% return? Even at a $50,000 one, 55 maybe, I would have to buy a home for about 500. So that's what I'm looking at. I need to buy a home for 52,500 at assuming 25% down, 8.5% interest rate, and that gets me to a 17% cash and cash return. And this is now an $826 cash flow a month, and I was assuming 1665. So that's like my best case scenario, right? So I really don't want to kind of risk that, but what's another way for this to become a deal? Well, what if the rent was still 1665, but all of a sudden I realized, hey, someone walked the property for me and they said my renovation was ranked or way too high. So what if I divided my renovation by half? A little bit more risky, but now I could say if my return criteria is 17%, what does that make me? Well, what can I go up to $100,000 now? No. Can I go to $80,000? Okay, I can. 85. Okay. So if for some reason my rehab is now, so I like to kind of note all my numbers there. So my rehab, if it's a $22,000 rehab, versus before it was 44,000. I'm just going to use easy numbers here because I'm going to multiply that by 2. It's still a 25% down, 8.5% interest rate. This was assuming now a $85,000 purchase price. 85,000. This is now going to cash flow me 639 with a 16.9% cash and cash return. So that helps me look at things a lot easier, right? Well, what if I was overestimating on a rehab? Then what am I willing to pay for the property? And if you have great teams in these areas that knows how to estimate rehabs a lot better, then boom, you are at an advantage. I would recommend at least becoming friends with a contractor here and there so that you can have someone to bounce your ideas off of and estimate the scope of work a little bit easier. Okay, well, that is the scenario for a conventional purchase. Well, what if this is now a creative finance purchase? Meaning, what if the seller decides to seller finance it to me? What would make this a deal, quote unquote, if I were to pursue that? So let me see if I can pull this property up on PropStream, because that will allow me to figure out whether or not this could be a deal if I did some sort of creative financing strategy. So this is website's called PropStream. I'll plug in the address here. Let me see if I can shrink this so you guys can kind of see the entire screen. When this property pops up, you want to click on the details page. And usually if there is an underlying mortgage, you can go to the mortgage section, which is right over here. Oh, cool. You can see that there is a loan in place, but this is the problem. This was a portfolio loan. How do I know? Because the loan amount here says $30 million. So chances are this property was bought as a portfolio of properties that someone took over for $30 million. So I'm assuming it's a very, very sizable property. So there's no way if we're trying to buy this home, we're going to purchase this home subject to the existing mortgage, because there's no way we're taking over a $30 million loan for one single family home. So that is not possible here, unfortunately. But let's just go through the scenarios, because what if this was a single family home that was owned free and clear, just like the last couple of days of properties that we've seen, just for exercise purposes, right? Well, what if I was able to get the seller to finance it and they own it free and clear? So let's run through the scenarios. What if I gave them the price that they wanted, which is $110,000, right? Because this way the seller wins. What if my rehab is still 44 grand? If I got a 0% interest rate, that means I can give $110,000. I can give 25% down at 0% interest rate. And that will allow me to cash flow $900 a month. And that's 14.6 cash and cash return, assuming it was 1665. Okay. Well, what if it's my worst case scenario, 1425? Because that to me is still not ideal. So at 1425, this is now a 11.5% return. So I need to adjust the offer to make it a deal for myself and my partners. Well, what if I gave a 12.5% cash down payment instead of a 25% down payment? Now, all of a sudden, this is a 13.34% return. Well, what if now this is only a 5% down? Not sure the seller's going to go for it, but that only still results in a 14.9% return because the rehab cost is still so high. And that's probably what's driving the cash and cash hold a little bit higher. So if for some reason the rehab is about $10,000 cheaper, now all of a sudden I can go to 10% down payment and this would be now ideal. So if I was wrong in my estimate for my rehab and I'm giving a 10% down payment at 0% interest rate, assuming that my rent is $1,425, which is what I'm calling my bottom scenario, this would make me feel comfortable about the deal because I'm still getting $664 a month, and this is now a 16.7% cash and cash return. So for me, that will still make sense for the rehab, but then my rehab now, I just want to make sure I'm clear about it. My rehab is now $34,000 instead of previously $44,000. So this is how I've been able to kind of go through all the scenarios, decide what makes something a deal for a single family home based on my personal investment criteria. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I always like to kind of run through scenarios because for every house, there is technically a number or terms that makes it a deal. And you can only figure this out and determine your buy box and the terms you're able to offer with creative solutions by just practicing and running through the scenarios and talking to yourself through about, hey, why is this a deal? Well, if this is my worst case scenario and this is my bottom rent, will I still buy this? Well, if not, what price would I buy it for? Assuming. And that helps you get over that fear of analyzing and investing in a deal if you're able to figure out what makes it a deal, even in the quote unquote worst case scenario in your perspective. Because I don't believe the rent is going to be zero if you think about how much demand there is for affordable housing. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. This is not a solicitation for investments or anything like that. I'm simply showing you guys what I do on an everyday basis as part of my daily habits. I hope you guys copy the same properties using the same spreadsheet, analyzing the same deals, and that's how you are able to do it. Oh, Luis Lacayo said he's telling sellers that he's putting a down payment towards repairs and he actually doesn't get any pushbacks. Jerry Smith, do you have a site that you use to determine which rental market you do business? And I don't have a site, but I've done a lot of market research, Jerry. I will, how would I say it? For my rental market research, I've done a lot of research over the last couple of years. I've weeded out a lot of zip codes based off of what zip codes are most likely to cash flow based off of the average rent and average median sales price. And using those ratios, I put those some of the market research right onto our Facebook group. It's called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing, just like our podcast. And I kind of put it all out there because usually that's a question I get. And sometimes people don't know exactly where to start, but it depends on your investment criteria, right? Some people might say, I'm willing to settle for a break-even property in California because I believe in appreciation, and that's where I want to make most of my money. So if it just breaks even, I would much rather invest in a high appreciating market because that's where the real wealth is built. Some folks will say, well, I would much rather keep the deal on a, how I would say it, I would much rather keep a deal that's cash flowing because I'm trying to use it to pay my bills and quit my job or earn financial freedom. Those are all different types of criteria that you will have to decide for yourself. That's really smart, Lewis. Putting on escrow, smart. And so this is it, guys. Happy Thursday. I hope if you guys have been watching so far, please support the podcast by following us on Spotify. We just uploaded on Spotify. Would appreciate a 5-star review there. It would really help kind of promote the podcast. And obviously, DM me with any questions that you guys might have. DM me your email if you would like me to send a spreadsheet to you guys. I have nothing to sell you. Right now, I don't make any money on the podcast. If you guys could, and you guys have rental properties, please use the referral link to get a insurance quote from Steadily. I got a quote from them recently that will probably save us about $600 on the short-term rental property that we have in Scottsdale. For Alabama property, it's actually more expensive. That's okay. That's the whole point of getting a quote, right? You got to shop around every year to try to preserve your cash flow. And for the past one that we closed recently in Atlanta, there was almost a $1,200 difference between what the quote we got from Berkshire was compared to the Steadily quote. Now, I'm not an insurance professional, but make sure you guys are comparing apples to apples. So don't think one policy is cheaper just simply because it has a higher deductible or it has lower limits of liability or coverage. I'm not an insurance professional, but you want to make sure you guys are comparing it apples to apples so you guys are getting the right quotes. The Facebook page is called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Canada Banana Farm, just DM me your email and I'll send you an invite to the Facebook group. And that's where I kind of publish like a bunch of market research. I go live in there every single day because I think this is one of the best ways to help people. I knew how scared I was when I was first getting started in real estate, and I didn't even know what a deal would even look like. And I had a lot of analysis paralysis, meaning I was so scared of losing money. So that's why I analyze deals all the time. So I didn't start documenting it until now, and until I realized that people really want help and want some tactical steps. So I hope you guys can, again, copy what I'm doing, same property, same spreadsheet, put it on your own YouTube channel. And guys, you guys can start attracting other investors to your own deals, because now they will ask you, hey, how do you know this is a deal? Well, you can show them your YouTube channel. Like, here's the last 100 days of deals that I've underwritten. I've underwritten one deal every single day. And that's how I've been to show that I've been consistent with what I'm doing, because that's what people are looking for. They're trying to see, are you actually doing what you say you're doing? Are you actually looking at the words? Are you actually looking at deals every single day? And are you being consistent? Jerry Smith, can you drop the link? Yeah, I can drop the link. Let me show you guys really quick. I'll drop the link for you guys right here. Boom. Copy link, OneStream. Taylor Lopez, you can just DM me your email. I'll send you the spreadsheet. And yeah, Jerry, I feel you, man. It's, even if a deal came over and plopped on your table and slapped you in the face, would you know that it's a deal? The only way you know it's a deal is if you actually gone through and underwrote deals and analyzed deals every single day. And that's why I realized when I was starting, I was so clueless. I didn't even know what to do. So now I figured I just put it on there, and you guys just copy it. Do the same property. Do the same spreadsheet. Put it onto your own YouTube channel and claim it as your own, please. Because that's going to help you guys the most. That really is. And I think that gives you guys incredible amount of credibility, especially when someone asks you why it's a deal. You can show them your YouTube channel and say, this is the last 100 deals I've looked at. They were all not deals, but this one is a deal. So the Facebook group is called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. So that's facebook.com/groups, GROUPS/Affordable Housing REI. Facebook.com/groups/Affordable Housing REI. Please make sure you answer the questions when you try to join, and just make sure that you are providing your email, because otherwise my assistant looks at all the invites and the people that are joining, and we decline people that don't answer the questions because we want to make sure they're not bots. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing Thursday. I'm going to do this for at least another 50 days in a row. I hope you guys do it with me. Just commit to it. Tag me on Facebook. Go live every day. It's not that hard, because especially if all you have to do is just copy what I did the day before, that should be pretty easy. So I'm committing to do this for 100 days in a row, because that's how you really truly build habits. Once you feel weird about not analyzing a deal a day, that's when you know the habit has been formed. And those are good habits. And just like some of the most successful people that I met, they're like, show me your habits and I'll know how successful you are. So I hope you guys are all analyzing 1951 Northern Lane, Montgomery, Alabama tomorrow on your own YouTube channels. Make sure you guys send me your YouTube link. I will subscribe to your YouTube channel. I know how hard it is to start a YouTube channel. It took me over a year to get 1,000 subscribers. I had to beg people to subscribe. So that's why I promised myself, if anybody ever asked me to subscribe to the channel, I would do it without any hesitation. So let me be your supporter. Let me be your biggest fan. I'm nothing to sell you. I hope you guys just do a lot of good with your affordable housing rentals. Thank you so much for being here. Without people like all of you guys, my mom would have never had the home. I would have never had the home I grew up in. So thank you guys so much for being givers, for caring about the affordable housing mission. We need way more people like all of you. And I'm so glad I'm hanging around a group of positive people in the world that are willing to give back and help others. Thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing Thursday. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.